Good evening. Right then, you've probably seen me on Facebook recently going back to grassroots and doing some graphite drawings. Now I'm going to do a couple of videos to prepare people for this one. I find it quite enjoyable, relaxing. It does need a bit of concentration, but there's several ways of creating things, and it's quite easy to undo mistakes and rectify them to a certain degree. So the first thing I want to do is explain some of the equipment that I use. I mean, you'll be adding to it and you'll be using other things as well, but these are sort of what I've got now and what I work with. So the first thing is obviously pencils. Now I have several sets of graphite pencils for the simple reason that, say you pick a HB pencil up and you have an HP in the Mars Lumograph or in the Derwent or Caran d'Ache or the Staedtler, they won't all be the same grade because they're all made up, the leads are made up slightly different. So I have several sets of pencils, and what I will be doing and showing you later on is how to do a tonal chart so that you know what your pencils can do, so that when you come to do a picture you'll have a better idea of which pencils to use. Or if you just like experimenting, that's fine. So let's go through a few of them. One of the initial sets that I had was the Staedtler Norris. So I've got a few of these. I'll go through them. I've got HB, 2H. Oh, excuse me, please. 2B, a B and a H. So H is for hard, B is the softer pencils, and obviously the higher the number. So if you've got a H3, that's going to be harder than a 2H. If you've got a H, then that's going to be a little bit softer than the 2H. And then HB is supposed to be somewhere in the middle. But like I say, different brands, the HB can be sort of different. So let's have a look for a start. So for the HB, let me just go back a couple of pages on here. So let's say here, so we've got an HB. So let's first put the Staedtler. Then I've got the Mars Lumograph. Then I've got the Mars Lumograph Black. I've got the Derwent Graphic. So that's Derwent Graphite. And then I've got the Caran d'Ache Graphwood. So I've got Caran d'Ache. Okay, so let's have a look, for instance, with the HB. So that's the HB in that set. I'll show you some of the other sets as well in a bit. Got HB there in the graphite. Got HB there in the luminance. Where's the HB? It's a 4. 2H, I don't want that. HB in that one, and a HB in that one. So if we look here, so these are just general graphite pencils that you can buy in the shops, but still you want something that's going to be suitable for purpose. So let's start with just a plain Staedtler, which is this one. So I'm going to hold the pencil quite far back, and I'm just going to do some shading. Some light shading there, and then I'm just going to press on a little bit more. So that's that one there. Okay, let me zoom in a little bit so you can see that. Okay, so that's there. So that's the HB in that one. So now I'm going to move to this one here, which is the Mars Lumograph. Again, it's a Staedtler, but it's a different brand. So again, I'm just going to start off doing some very light shading. So I'm hardly touching the paper there. And then as we come along, and we'll start and get some darker bits. So there isn't that much difference there. So that's not too bad. And then we're going to do the Mars Lumograph Black. Okay. And again, this is the HB. So again, we start off nice and light. Just do some circular motions here. And obviously I'm going to start putting on some extra pressure. Okay. So that one is quite a bit different from that one. This is the Derwent Graphite graphic. Okay, HB. Now this feels a bit scratchier. That's light. And I'm going to start going dark now. So I'm putting on a little bit pressure here. So that obviously isn't quite as dark as that one. Okay. And then this one, the last one is the Caran d'Ache HB, which is this one here. Okay. Well, this is quite smooth to put on. It's got a smoother, not quite as dark as some of the others, but again, you could layer up. So you layered it up. Okay, so let me have a look, show you, see if we can get it a bit closer. So you can see that one's a little bit buttery and lays down. So is that one really, but it's not quite as dark as that one. That one's the darkest one. So you can see there is some slight, they're not massive differences, but there is some differences. So I do suggest that whichever pencils you get, try them out and see which is comfortable for you. And also, if you want to try them out, as I said, later on we will be doing his own tonal chart. But what I have here at the minute is I use this one. So when I'm looking at a reference photo, so basically if I get a colour photograph, I just turn it into black and white or grayscale. And then what I'll use is, let me zoom back out again. So let me just, there we go. I have this. So I can put this along anywhere on the picture and find out what part of the picture, you know, is a grayscale, what grayscale or where it is on here. But what I will do is, with all of these values here, I'm going to use the different sets of pencils and create and write at the side which one to which set equates to each of these scales. So that when I put this scale on the actual grayscale photograph, I can pick, you know, whichever pencil I want, I can pick which is the nearest one to it. On some of them you will have to layer. That one obviously will be blank because that'll be the white of the paper, and then you've got the black. Now for the black, you are going to need some quite high graded soft pencils. I mean, you can go up to 11, 12B, you know, you can get 2 times 9B, you know, you can get the different sorts of pencils that go as near to that as they will, and you may have to layer up on them, but we'll discuss that in another video. But that's I found that a useful tool, and obviously I've used that to actually provide pencil scales within the pencils that I've got, because you should actually, if you do it right, you should only actually need about 3 or 4 pencils out of each set. I mean, the ones I use mainly are, I do have a H or 2H, then probably I do use a B occasionally, and then 2B, a 4B and a 6B are the main ones that I use. I don't really use many others, but I do use other graphite aids, which I'll explain to you shortly. So, to summarise, I have a set of these Staedtler Norris pencils, which you've seen. Then I have, the next set I got was this set, which I do find quite good. And it's a Staedtler, but it's the Mars Lumograph. Now the ones I am after, which I'm waiting to arrive, is the Faber-Castell 9000. Now they really are some nice pencils. But I thought I'd see how I enjoyed doing graphite, if I was going to continue doing it, as to whether I bought the set or not. But I mean, these are some of the pencils that I already had in my arsenal of equipment. So then we have I've got here the Derwent graphic. Now they're quite good. Then we have, similar to the blue set, the Staedtler Mars Lumograph, but this one is a black, so the lead is that much darker. So that was that one there, which is the darkest. So that's them sets. I'll put them back over there. And then recently I acquired just a few pencils to try them out first. I don't buy a full set, I just try a few. So actually I've got the ones that I use a few times. I'm just going to sneeze, just excuse me. Oh, is it good? It's gone. Right, so I've got the, this is the Caran d'Ache Graph Wood. And I came across these, I thought, well, I like the Caran d'Ache Luminance colour pencil, so I thought I'll try these. And to be quite honest, they are nice. They're quite buttery. So I've got the HB. I've got two of those, actually. A 4B and a 2B. So I thought I'll try these out as well. So I've got these just to try out. Okay. So that's the actual just basic graphite pencils. Now, you don't have to have all them sets. You can just stick to one set. But what I suggest you do is just buy a couple of different brands first, and just buy a couple of each each set, and just try them out first and see which ones you feel comfortable with, and if you can get the right tonal values. So then some other graphite equipment that I use is, we have these here, which are, these are the pure graphite, and they're woodless. So in other words, they haven't got a wood casing like these do. So these are pure graphite. So you can use them just as normal graphites, or what I use them for, I sometimes get a spare bit of card, and what I'll do is I get a craft knife and I will scrape some onto there, which produces graphite powder. So again, these come in different strengths. There's 2B, 6B, 4B, 9B, HB and an 8B. Okay, so I've got several types of these as well, but these are, they don't have wood round them, so they're just pure graphite. So I found different uses for those. Then I also have, I've got a couple of what we call graphite sticks. So I've got a 6B and a 2B here at the minute. I will be getting some more. And again, I use these mainly for producing graphite powder. For doing things like graphite powder, I use for doing things like backgrounds. So you don't end up with too many pencil lines. So if you scrape it onto a bit of card, and then, you can, or straight onto the paper where you're going to be doing the skies as such. And then to blend it, you can either use something like a cotton wool, like I've got there. So I always keep that because it's actually got a bit of graphite on it. So, if I want a very light background, for the sky, you just sort of, and it does actually smooth it out. So you don't get, so you get a nice smooth blend. Then you can go over it or erase clouds, and then you can also, or if you're just doing a background, and you can put some pencil on top, but it gives you a good base. So, I use those. And again, these are the same sort of thing. These are sort of just blocks of graphite. And again, you can use them for sketching. You can use them straight for sketching, or, colouring or blocking in large areas. Some of them are quite scratchy and some are quite smooth. But the things that, you should buy in and just experiment with them. So then, what I also have is, I have a set of, I've got some mechanical pencils here. Now you can see I've got labels stuck on mine, because what I've done is I've got some new leads in them, because they all came with HB lead and I don't want all HB. So what I've got is some H lead in that one there. That was a Pental one. and I've just bought some H-leads and swapped them out. That's the Faber-Castell, and that one is an HB, and then I've got another Staedtler one here, that's HB. Then I've got, this one's a 2B, that's another Pental, but they're all different widths as well, so that's a 5mm, 7mm, another 7, that's a 5mm. And then I've also got this, which is a HB Faber-Castell, and it's a pencil grabber. So you get the leads, which are quite thick. They're not as thin as those, as you can see. There, it's quite much thicker. And you put it in the end, and you can use them as well. So it's it's just a pen. It's another sort of pencils. Now the difference with these is if you've got an HB in these, obviously they're a finer line, but also they will be a lot darker than your normal HB pencils. I mean, you can vary the pressure on them, like on there, look, but they are a lot darker. But these are good for doing your drawings now. I mean, when I'm doing graphite, I tend to use the grid method for drawing my pictures out. So I work square by square, and if I use these because they're fairly thin and light, then with light pressure, then I usually get a good start on my drawing. Okay, and the grid can be erased later. For fastening my paper down, if I've got it fastened down on a board, I found masking tape's a little bit harsh, and it can destroy your paper. So what I tend to do is, because I'm using the grid method, I draw the grid out on the reference photograph using a 1-inch ruler like this. This is exactly 1 inch wide. So I would go across and do lines on my reference photograph that way and that way at 1 inch, and do exactly the same on my paper. So I normally work, when I'm doing graphite, I normally work A4. So I print my reference photograph as A4, and then I have an A4 sheet of paper, and I just do them in the same way, direction, and that. So you will get exactly the same. But when I put it on the board, once I've drawn the picture on with the grid method, then what I do is I put it onto a board, and I just put some tape round, so it's half and half. So I've got some kind of white border, nice white border. And I'll show you what I mean in a minute in one of the pictures. So I use washi tape. Now I've got a few bits. This is the crafting type of washi tape, so it comes off easy. It doesn't rip your paper. But I've got some from Alfred's, which is quite good as well. And it doesn't adhere to your paper as much, so it doesn't stick and it doesn't pull it off. So I use washi tape. Cotton wool buds you've seen me use. I also use Q-tips or cotton buds, no matter what, depending on where you come from. They make good blenders as well, and so does if you're doing skies, again, large areas, some nice clean kitchen towel works as a blender. Then the other kind of blenders is, I have here some what we call tortillions or blending sticks. Now, if you look, mine have got graphite on them, because again, if it's got some graphite on it, like there, I can use it, so I do keep some that I can use just to put an area down. I do have some cleaner ones that I have just for blending, and these are pretty soft. You can reshape them and clean them, but I also have some quite hard ones that are made out of soft paper, ricey paper. But the harder ones, it's a small one I have, which I use a lot. Let's have a look. That's it there. So that's a little bit harder, but I use that. That's ideal for when I'm doing walls, stone walls, like sides of houses, stone brick walls and things like that. Because it's harder, I can actually create different pressures and things and blending, and I can create some bricks shapes. Okay, so I've got that one. they're the Q-tips again. And then I also sometimes use these, which are colour shapers, which people that use pastels will tend to know. I mean, these are the small ones. I have got some big ones as well. Also, while I'm doing the grid drawing, when I'm transferring my drawing onto my paper, I sometimes find this comes in handy, especially if you're doing buildings, for straight lines and actually getting things in the right place and measure up. I also sometimes have a square that's an inch, so I have a border around it. So it's a piece of card like this, and then inside I have a perfect inch square removed, so that I can go on my reference photograph and place the hole over one square and put it onto my corresponding square on my paper, and then I can see exactly. So it's easier to transfer the lines and where you're going, so you're more likely to get them in the right direction and get the right perspective. Okay, so when it comes to, then I have some pencil extenders, which I use for colour pencils as well, so I've got plenty of those. Erasing. So for erasing, I've got the plastic rubbers, obviously, make sure they're clean. Then I've got these, well, obviously, a lot of people use these and see me use them with colour pencil, which are the Tombow rubbers. So they're already in stock. This is just another one that I've got. It's like so that comes out and you just fit another rubber piece in there and then put it and slide it into the top. Now this one I find is great because it's a little bit bigger. So on an A4 sheet, if I want to do some clouds, so like here where we put this bit down here, if I want to do some clouds, I can just do that. So I can just take some erase some out like that, and then obviously I just get a brush. Always brush off your graphite, and then just use a nice soft blender, and there you can blend in. See if I can zoom in a bit so you can see it. So let it focus a bit. So then I can blend in, and you've got some, and then you can just keep going if you want to take out a bit more white. Or just there. Or if you just want to take out some whiter areas, and then obviously just blend it again, so you get some nice soft edges without the harsh edges. Okay, so that comes in handy. It's more or less a pencil. It's like a big pencil with a rubber bit in it. Then the other rubbers that I use, or eraser, is malleable one for these are great because you can make them really tiny like that, and just again it helps to create. So if you're doing trees and things like that where you've got dark and light sections, you can just keep, and it erases little bits like that, so you can create texture with them as well. It's not just about erasing, it's about creating different textures. So you can, because that's why it's called a malleable rubber. And obviously if you go too dark sometimes and you just want to erasing a line off your grid mark, you can use those. Okay, another thing I use because I'm working on, before I finish, I do also use, I have got a couple of electric erasers. That one's a Derwent one. This one is a bit mucky. It's a fairly new one. Now this one actually does have two. I can vary it. I can have a tip in it this size, so I'll just take that out and replace it with the metal one. Or I've got these where I've got some really nice small ones, and this is good for taking. Oops. Oh, now I've took my batteries out. These are good for using for when you're doing trees, where you've got, where you put your whatever markings you're putting in, and you want some light bits erasing out of your trees. These are ideal because they're just very small. Because like I say, I usually do mostly A4. So it just goes round there, so you can just hold it, press the button, And again, they're used mainly for creating texture rather than erasing, but it does create, as you can see just there, you can see some little white stipples, so you can make some textures. But we're going to be going over all the different techniques in the next couple of videos. A brush, always have a brush handy, so I've got 2 types there to keep the graphite away, and always work from the light to the dark graphite. Don't go dark to light, because you will, it's loose, so you will fetch it into the paper. And then a couple more pieces that I use are magnifying glasses, because I'm working A4. This one has a light on it, so that's fantastic, because I can light up what I'm doing and see what I'm doing at a larger scale. And then there's that one as well, which I use in the daytime. And then obviously I do have a craft knife, because with the pencils, if you are shading or filling in a larger area, what you want is, you don't want a very sharp point. What you need is a chisel point. So if you get your, so let's have a look, see if I can do this one. So if you look, it's not exactly, so it's not pointed, it's got a bit of a chisel, flat chisel side on it. See if we can see it there, see if, no, I can't quite. So it's not a pointed edge as such, we get what you call a bit of a chisel end on it there. And then what you do is you put that will then lay flatter to the paper like that, and you can fill in some larger areas. And then obviously, if for detail, if you know, for your detail, then yes, you want a point on it like that. Okay, so a craft knife comes in handy for that sort of thing. So that's really the sort of basic equipment that I use. Apart from, like, to introduce you to my supportive potato. A very good friend bought me this, and I carry it around because most of you probably know by now I lost my son last year, the back end of last year, and it's the memories of my son that keep me going. And a good friend of mine bought me this, so he now sits on my easel, so when I'm working he's always there. And he's my supportive potato. But I do also have a good support system from my husband, so, you know, there's plenty going on. And then also, I'll just mention this bit of equipment just for now. I mean, this will probably be coming in later on, but I have this. This is a little Toby jug. And in here I've got some antique, I've got some new nibs. I'm not going to be using the old ones. I do have some antique dip pens. So these sometimes come in handy when you're doing graphite drawings, just to add in, if you've got some really, really, really dark areas, you can use these. But you can use these in their own right as well. But I've picked these up, so I will be introducing those as well. So that's really it for the equipment. So just before we finish, I'm just going to go through a few little bits. I'll show you about the white border that I was on about. So let's have a look. So I will be doing some small pieces in sketchbooks, but I will also, most of the pieces that I do will be done on A4. So this is one of them. Now this is how I keep them in I get some acid-free, these are the acid-free ones, so make sure you get acid-free. And these are the folders. You look, they've got like a bit of a mesh look on them. They're not totally clear plastic, and that's because they are acid-free. So they're the ones that you really need. And I put them in there. So like this, I did the sky, but because I put the tape on, when you took it off, even the lighter bits of the sky, so let me zoom out so you can see that one better. Even the lighter bits of the sky, you can tell the difference. So that was one that I did. I don't spray them. I did do to start with, but I don't know, I just don't find that they need spraying. And also another thing is, I can stand my pencil pot on the windowsill because it's completely light fast, it doesn't fade. Another way you can get your squares, if you don't want to, so say this was a reference photograph, if you didn't want to go over it, you can make what we call a grid sheet with acetate paper. You probably can't see that so well because it's done light. It's got light. Oh, there you can just see them just here, look. So I printed inch squares out. So I can just put that, it's been used a lot so it wants redoing. And I just put that over the top and then I draw. So on the piece of paper I would just copy and do these lines across and then down. And then you've got exactly the same. This is an A4 sheet and the reference was A4. Okay, like I said, masking fluid, look, that's what it did. So that will be under the, hopefully that will be under the mounting. So that was one that I did. I've just finished one, and then also I've done, so this one will probably show you better the actual, so if you're doing a very light background on something, but if you put a tape round, so you can see how light that background is, but when you've got the border around, it really does look nice. So you can put borders, backgrounds in. You could leave it just plain, but then it's just the light areas wouldn't be so, they wouldn't pop as much. So if you put like a little bit of a background on, so that was a wax wing that I did, and that's all graphite except for just here where it's really dark. And I used a fine liner and just dotted it, and then I blended it away with the pencils. I layered it with the pencils. But it's fun. It's a medium you can have fun with. Okay, you haven't got the colour there, but what you do learn, I think, by doing graphite is you learn a lot more about contrast and tones. So when you come to use like coloured pencils or something, you'll have a little bit more experience of judging the tonal values of colour as well. So, and as I say, I keep them all in these folders now. Now my colour pencil ones, I would spray them, and they are light fast to a certain degree, but they will if they're left out in the sun or anything. So you do have to look at whatever medium you're using and use the correct way of storing them. So they're what I use for these, and then also I have the sketchbook. So here's one of my sketchbooks now I've got. So in this one, what have I had in it? Oh, I've done a few. So on like here, I've got like some of the different types of strokes, pencil strokes you can do, like cross hatching, graduated shading, stippling, scrumbling, circular shading, graduated shading using different pencils, a few tips on there. So these are all going to appear in different videos, and I've done some eyes. That one was, and then I went on to some birds. So again, I've done some more examples of different pencil markings that we can use. So, and also which is the right way and the wrong way of doing them. Also, I was doing a little bit of study on birds. So I've actually done, if you can see there, let me just zoom in a bit. Whoops, the camera's gone a bit. So I was sort of indicating which way the feathers sort of grow on a bird. I've done the same for fur on cats and dogs and things. This is an example then of, so that one was just completely freehand. So that was me just doing it, and then I put background on, and it's the foot of a barn owl. I've been doing quite a bit with barn owls at the moment. Then this is a webbed foot bird, so it's a mallard. And what I did with this was the grid line method. Okay, So that's what it'd look like with the grid line, but you can take the grid lines out as you work it so that you don't end up with them. And don't do them too heavy. They're heavy here because it was just an experiment and showing you how to do it. Then I did a little bit here with feathers, naming what's on the feather and then doing a feather underneath. So then this piece here, this is how to do the grid method, and it's actually explaining it, and then that's it. So when I've got this grid method, I just rub out and just rub it out as I go along, but as I'm going along then I do all the different work, and that's what you end up with. So we will be doing something like that. And this was using, like I said, for texture, this was using the rubbers, malleable rubber, electric eraser, and the different shadings, and that's how you get the textures. Okay, and then I'm just ready. So this will be a sketchbook where I will do some exercises and we'll keep them in there. I've got two size sketchbooks. I've got an A4 and an A5, but you can just do them on paper if you like. You could do your reference pictures larger than an A4 if you want. You could do an A3, it's up to you. It's entirely up to what you feel comfortable doing, but I found I'm quite happy with an A4 because there's a lot of work involved. You know, it's an A3 would take, oh God knows how many hours. But like this one that I've just finished, let me have a look. You can see it without me taking it out of the package. I don't know if you've seen this one on Facebook. I've just done this one. But this one again has taken me quite a lot of hours, and it was finding the different ways of doing these textures, and it's all down to experimentation. This here is a wall. It's sort of what do they call it now when they put, it's like a textured surface on there. This is the old cobbly type wall. And then also, like I said, finding tonal values, perspective, and, you know, contrast, light and dark. So in your reference photo, you do need quite a bit of contrast in there. Got the shadows on here. Now this took me, I mean, if I was doing it in colour pencil, I'd probably do it in a couple of days. But doing it in graphite and having to think and concentrate, then it did take me a week. So, you know, it's not something you're gonna rush, and there's room for improvement all the time. Everybody's improving, and that's by just practicing more and more. So I hope you've enjoyed the first video, which is the introduction to the equipment, and then next time we're going to start by doing some of the pencil strokes and how each pencil works. And then I'll do another one on the grid method, how to actually get the grid method right. And then we'll do some little exercises as well along the way. Okay? And how to do the trees, which a lot of people seem to have problems with, but I find them quite fun to do with trees. And they can look very realistic. So lots to look forward to. I'm also going to be doing some more watercolour and some more coloured pencil. I've been on holiday, so I haven't had a lot of time lately, but I haven't been idle. I have been prepping some projects. So, you know, keep joining in on Patreon and you'll find more and more projects coming on. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you later. Thank you very much. Bye.